The first blow landed before Marcus Reed could finish his sentence. The sound was wrong, too dull for the sharp crack his mind expected. It knocked the air from his chest and folded him toward the hood of the cruiser. The parking lot smelled of hot tar and spilled soda. Somewhere close a cart rattled. Somewhere closer, his son screamed his name. Marcus had said nothing reckless. He had said please. He had said, "My son is right here." He had felt the familiar calculation rise in his throat, the one that measured tone, posture, silence. None of it mattered. The officer's shadow stretched long in the afternoon light, blocking the sun from Jamal's face. Phones appeared and disappeared in people's hands like guilty thoughts. A woman gasped. A man turned away. The officer's voice carried, calm, practiced, certain. "Stop resisting." Marcus tasted blood. He thought of courtrooms with polished wood and quiet rules. He thought of Jamal's math test taped to the fridge. He thought of how small the space between dignity and disaster could be. "Dad!" Jamal cried again, high and breaking. The baton rose. Marcus flinched, not from fear for himself, but from the knowledge that his son was learning something permanent in real time. The cuffs bit into his wrists. Applause did not come. Silence did. As the cruiser door opened, the officer leaned close enough for Marcus to smell coffee on his breath and hear the smile in his voice. "You people never learn." The door slammed. The window reflected Jamal standing alone with the groceries at his feet. Marcus closed his eyes, not knowing which would hurt more when he opened them, the charges waiting, or the moment the city learned exactly who they had beaten. Sirens bled into the afternoon as Marcus Reed pushed the grocery cart across the cracked parking lot. His son Jamal skipped beside him, swinging a paper bag and humming, unaware of the patrol car creeping behind them. Marcus felt it before he heard it, the tightening between his shoulders, the old lesson drilled by years of watching his steps. He kept his eyes forward. "Hey! Stop right there." Marcus stopped. Jamal froze. The officer stepped out slowly, hand resting near his baton. He was young, pale, confident in the way uniforms often were. "What's in the bag?" he asked. "Groceries," Marcus said. His voice stayed even. "We just checked out." The officer glanced at Jamal. "Kid, step back." Jamal looked up at his father. Marcus shook his head once. "He's staying with me." The officer's smile thinned. "I wasn't asking." Bystanders drifted closer, pretending not to stare. Phones rose, then lowered. Marcus felt heat crawl up his neck. He had worn suits to courtrooms across the city, argued statutes before judges who knew his name, but here his resume meant nothing. Here he was a black man with a bag and a son. "I haven't done anything wrong," Marcus said. "That's for me to decide," the officer replied. "Hands on the hood." Marcus hesitated. The hesitation was enough. The baton came fast, a blunt shock against his ribs that knocked the breath from his chest. Jamal screamed. Marcus stumbled, catching himself on the car, pain flaring white and sharp. The officer moved again, rough, shoving him down. "Dad!" Jamal cried. "Get on the ground!" The officer shouted, louder now, for the crowd, for authority. Marcus lay flat, cheek against hot asphalt, tasting oil and dust. He heard cuffs snap closed. He heard someone say, "That's excessive," softly, uselessly. He heard Jamal sobbing, a sound that cut deeper than the pain. Minutes stretched. Another cruiser arrived. Questions were asked, answered with shrugs. The officer wrote quickly, pen scratching like a verdict. "What's your name?" the second officer asked. "Marcus Reed." The officer paused. "Occupation." Marcus swallowed. He could end it with one sentence. He didn't. "I'm a father," he said. They hauled him up. Jamal reached for him, was pulled back by a woman from the crowd. Marcus met his son's eyes. He forced a nod, a promise he wasn't sure he could keep. As the car door slammed, Marcus saw the officer grin, already bored, already done. The sirens rose again, carrying Marcus away, leaving Jamal standing alone with the groceries at his feet. The holding cell smelled like disinfectant and old sweat, a sour mix that settled in Marcus Reed's throat. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Too bright, too constant. Time didn't move here, it stacked. Marcus sat on the metal bench with his wrists cuffed in front of him, shoulders stiff, back straight by habit. Every breath pulled at his ribs. He tested it once, quietly, and stopped. Across from him, a man in a wrinkled hoodie paced 3 steps, turned, paced back. "They get you too?" the man asked. Marcus lifted his eyes. "What?" "The stop. The look. The whole thing." The man snorted. "They always say it's something." Marcus nodded once. "They said I was resisting." The man laughed without humor. "Of course they did." A guard walked past, keys clinking, eyes sliding over them without landing. Marcus tracked the movement, cataloging it the way he did in court. Who spoke, who didn't, what was left unsaid. The system didn't change just because the walls did. The man across from him leaned in. "Name's Leon." "Marcus." Leon glanced at the bruising along Marcus's jaw. "You got kids?" "One." Leon's face shifted. "Damn." The door buzzed. A young woman stepped in with a clipboard tucked under her arm. Her suit was off the rack and rumpled, her hair pulled back too tight. "Marcus Reed," she called. Marcus stood carefully. Pain flashed. He kept his face neutral. "I'm here," he said. "I'm Aaron Walsh, public defender." She glanced at his cuffs. "They'll take those off in the interview room." Leon called after him. "Good luck, man." Marcus nodded, the gesture small but deliberate. The interview room was colder. Aaron sat across from him, flipping pages. An officer uncuffed Marcus and leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "Can we have a minute?" Aaron asked. The officer smiled thinly. "Procedure says no." Aaron exhaled, then looked back at Marcus. "Okay, I'm going to ask questions. Answer clearly. Don't volunteer anything extra." Marcus almost smiled at the irony. "Understood. Charge is resisting arrest and disorderly conduct," she said. "Officer claims you refused lawful orders and attempted to pull away." Marcus held her gaze. "That didn't happen." "I need specifics," she said gently. "Words matter." "They told my son to step away," Marcus said. "I said no. I asked why I was being stopped. I did not touch the officer. I did not raise my voice." The officer in the corner shifted. Aaron wrote quickly. "Any witnesses?" "There were people," Marcus said. "A lot of them. Names." "I was face down," Marcus said. "I couldn't see." Aaron's jaw tightened. "Body cam." The officer cleared his throat. "Camera malfunctioned." Marcus looked at him then, slow and steady. "Of course it did." The officer bristled. "Watch your tone." "My tone," Marcus repeated. He stopped himself. Silence could be a weapon too. Aaron raised a hand slightly. "Okay. We'll request footage from nearby stores. For now, bail is set for tomorrow morning." "Tomorrow," Marcus said. His chest tightened. "My son." "I know," Aaron said. "I know." The officer pushed off the wall. "We're done here." Back in the cell, time pressed harder. Marcus sat alone now. Leon had been taken out. The bench felt narrower. He replayed Jamal's scream over and over, the sound looping, burrowing. He pressed his palms together, breathing through the ache. A different man was brought in, older, gray at the temples. He lowered himself with a grunt. "They get you too?" the man asked, echoing Leon's words. "Yes," Marcus said. The man shook his head. "Been like this 40 years. You'd think they'd get tired." Marcus studied him. "Do they?" The man laughed quietly. "No. They just get better at explaining it." Footsteps approached. A sergeant stopped outside the bars, staring at a tablet. His brow furrowed. He scrolled back then again. He looked up at Marcus. "Read," he said slowly. Marcus met his eyes. What's your date of birth? Marcus gave it. The sergeant's face changed. Not fear, not respect, something closer to calculation. He stepped away without another word. The hours crawled. A sandwich arrived, dry and tasteless. Marcus ate anyway. He needed the strength. Somewhere outside these walls, Jamal was with his sister, asking questions adults would dodge. The door opened again. Erin returned, breathless. They moved you up for arraignment review, she said. Something flagged. Marcus said nothing. Before we go in, she added, lowering her voice, I need to ask, do you hold any public office? The room went still. Marcus felt the weight of the choice settle fully now. Yes, he said. Erin blinked. What kind? I'm the district attorney, Marcus said. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't soften it. The silence stretched. Erin's face flushed, then steadied. Okay, she said finally. Okay. The sergeant reappeared, suddenly polite. Mr. Reed. Follow me. As they walked, officers glanced up from desks, whispers rippling. A name traveled faster than truth ever did. In a small office, a lieutenant waited, hands folded. This is unfortunate, he began. Marcus interrupted him. My son watched an officer beat me, he said. That's what's unfortunate. The lieutenant cleared his throat. We'll conduct an internal review. I'm sure you will, Marcus said. The lieutenant forced a smile. Given your position, we can expedite release. Marcus leaned forward, pain flaring. My position doesn't change what happened, he said. It changes whether you can ignore it. The lieutenant's smile faded. Paperwork appeared. Apologies did not. Marcus signed his name, each letter precise. When the door finally opened to the night air, cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Marcus raised a hand not to speak, but to shield his eyes. He scanned the crowd until he saw Jamal, small and rigid, clutching his aunt's coat. Marcus crossed the distance carefully. Jamal ran into his arms, sobbing. I'm here, Marcus whispered. I've got you. Over Jamal's head, Marcus saw the officer from the parking lot watching from the shadows, expression unreadable. The city had learned his name. Now it would have to learn the truth. Marcus did not see Jamal that first night the way Jamal lived it. He learned it later in fragments stitched together from other people's words, from silences that stretched too long, from the way his son flinched at sirens even weeks afterward. Jamal stood in the parking lot after the cruiser left. The groceries spilled at his feet like evidence no one bothered to collect. Milk leaked across the asphalt. A woman held his shoulders, her hands trembling more than his. It's okay, she said. Your dad's okay. Jamal shook his head. They hit him. The woman didn't answer that. She kept saying his aunt was coming. She kept looking around like someone might stop her for standing there too long. When Aunt Denise arrived, breathless and furious, Jamal ran to her so hard he almost knocked them both over. They took him, Jamal said into her coat. They hurt him. Denise pressed her lips together. I know, she said. I know. Home the lights were too bright. Denise sat Jamal at the kitchen table and poured juice he didn't touch. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. Every sound felt loud. The refrigerator hummed like it was alive. They said he was bad, Jamal said suddenly. Denise crouched in front of him. Who said that? The man, Jamal said. The policeman. He said Dad was resisting. Dad wasn't. I know, Denise said. They told me to move, Jamal said. I didn't want to. You didn't do anything wrong, Denise said. Jamal stared at the table. If I moved, would they have stopped? Denise's breath caught. She reached for him, pulling him close. Listen to me, she said, firm now. None of this is because of you. But Jamal had already learned something the world would spend years trying to undo. That night, Jamal slept in short bursts. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the baton rise. He heard the words stop resisting, loud and empty. When a car passed outside, he bolted upright. Dad, he called. Denise came running. He's coming home, she said. He promised. The next morning, Denise emailed Jamal's teacher. She chose her words carefully, the way people did when they needed institutions to cooperate. There's been a family emergency. Jamal may be quiet today. The teacher replied with concern and policy. Thank you for letting me know. The counselor can check in. At school, Jamal sat at his desk and watched the clock. Every tick felt like a question no one would answer. When the counselor arrived, she knelt beside him, voice soft. Do you want to tell me what happened? Jamal stared straight ahead. My dad got arrested. The counselor's smile faltered. I'm sorry, she said. Do you know why? They hit him, Jamal said. He didn't do anything. The counselor nodded slowly, the way adults did when they wanted to acknowledge without agreeing. That must have been scary. Jamal clenched his fists. They were wrong. I hear you, the counselor said. Sometimes adults make mistakes. Jamal wrote the word in his notebook and crossed it out so hard the pencil tore the paper. When Marcus finally came home, Jamal ran into him, careful not to touch the bruises but unable to let go. Marcus held him tightly, breathing him in like proof. I was scared, Jamal said. I know, Marcus said. I was too. They sat on the couch together, Denise hovering nearby. Marcus told him only what he had to. They thought I did something I didn't, Marcus said. And that's wrong. Why? Jamal asked. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment. Because some people see power where there isn't any, he said. And danger where there isn't any. Jamal nodded like he understood, like he didn't. That night, Jamal dreamed of flashing lights. In the dream, he yelled and no sound came out. Days passed. The story broke open. Jamal heard his father's name on the radio, on the television, whispered at school. That's your dad? A boy asked, eyes wide. Jamal shrugged. Yeah. My mom says he's important, the boy said. Jamal thought of the parking lot. They didn't think so. Pickup parents stared. Some smiled too hard. Others looked away. One mother pulled her child closer as Jamal passed. Home reporters called. Marcus stopped answering. Jamal listened from the hallway, catching pieces. Internal review. Pending investigation. Allegations. Do they believe you? Jamal asked one night. Marcus hesitated. Some do, he said. What about the man who hit you? Marcus didn't answer right away. He believes he was right, he said finally. Jamal's face tightened. He wasn't. No, Marcus said. He wasn't. A social worker visited the house, clipboard in hand. Standard follow-up, she said. We want to ensure Jamal feels safe. I feel safe, Jamal said flatly. She smiled. That's good. Do you want to draw how you're feeling? Jamal stared at the crayons. He picked up the black one and pressed it hard against the paper, filling the page until it tore. Marcus watched, jaw clenched. At night, Jamal began sleeping with the light on. He flinched when Marcus raised his voice on the phone, even when he was just angry at the news. I don't like when you sound like them, Jamal said once. Marcus swallowed. I'll try to remember that. One evening, as they brushed their teeth side by side, Jamal looked up at his father. Are they going to do it again? He asked. Marcus met his eyes in the mirror. He chose honesty without cruelty. They might try, he said. But I won't let them do it quietly. Jamal nodded. He didn't smile. At school, Jamal wrote an essay titled What I Saw. He turned it in without telling anyone. The teacher read it twice, hands shaking, then sent it to the principal. The principal called Denise. We may need to discuss how much is appropriate, he said. Denise's voice was sharp. What's appropriate is telling the truth. That night, Jamal handed Marcus the essay. Marcus read it slowly, each sentence landing heavier than the last. They told my dad to stop resisting when he was already still, Jamal had written. They told me to step away. I didn't want to because dads are supposed to protect you. Marcus folded the paper carefully. His hands trembled. "I'm proud of you," he said. Jamal looked up. "Will it help?" Marcus answered without hesitation. "Yes." Outside, a siren wailed, distant but present. Jamal stiffened. Marcus put an arm around him, holding him steady. The world had taught Jamal a lesson it never planned to account for. And Marcus understood now that justice would not begin in a courtroom. It had already begun in his son's memory. The conference room lights hummed softly as the body camera footage froze on a single frame. The officer's arm was raised. Marcus's face was turned away. The timestamp blinked in the corner like a pulse. "Roll it again," Captain Hargreaves said. The technician obeyed. The video stuttered, resumed, then cut out just before the first strike. Clean absence. An explanation waiting to be written. "Camera malfunction," the officer said, seated at the end of the table. His uniform was crisp, his posture easy. "Happens." Hargreave leaned back. "Funny how it always happens at the same moment." The officer shrugged. "I followed procedure." A lieutenant tapped his pen. "Witnesses say excessive force." "Witnesses always say that," the officer replied. "Crowds don't like authority." Across town, Marcus sat in his office, suit jacket folded over the chair, ice pack pressed against his ribs. The door was closed. The blinds were half drawn. On his desk lay a single folder, thin but heavy with implication. "Marcus," his deputy Elaine Porter said carefully, "we need to talk." Marcus didn't look up. "I know." Elaine shut the door behind her. "Internal Affairs called. They asked if you want to recuse yourself." Marcus laughed once, sharp. "From my own assault." "They're nervous," Elaine said. "They don't want this to look like accountability." Marcus finished. Elaine met his gaze. "Like conflict." Marcus removed the ice pack, wincing. "There's always conflict when power is challenged." Elaine sighed. "The officers' union is already drafting statements." "Of course they are. They're saying this is being politicized." Marcus leaned forward. "They politicized it the moment they put a baton in my ribs and wrote resisting arrest." Elaine hesitated. "The mayor wants to meet." "About optics," Marcus said. "Yes." Marcus stood, pain flaring, grounding him. "Tell him optics didn't bleed in front of a child." Elaine watched him closely. "Are you sure you want to go public?" Marcus didn't answer immediately. He thought of Jamal's essay. The torn paper. The black crayon pressed too hard. "I'm already public," he said. "I was just arrested in daylight." At the police station, whispers followed the officer down the hallway. "That's the one," someone murmured. "DA's dad," another corrected. "No," a third said. "The DA himself." The officer stopped. "Say it to my face." No one did. In a supervisor's office, Sergeant Wilkes stared at his screen, scrolling through the incident report again. The name glowed back at him. "Marcus Reed." He muttered. "You've got to be kidding me." He picked up the phone. "Captain, we have a problem." "We already knew that," Hargreaves said. "No," Wilkes replied. "We have that problem." Silence, then a low curse. "Does the officer know?" "Not yet." "Keep it that way," Hargreaves said. "For now." At home that evening, Marcus sat at the kitchen table with Jamal. Homework spread between them. Jamal worked quietly, glancing up every few minutes like he needed to check that Marcus was still there. "Dad," Jamal said, pencil paused. "Are you going to jail again?" Marcus set his pen down. "No," he said. "Not for this." Jamal nodded, unconvinced. "What about the man?" Marcus chose his words. "He's being investigated." "Does that mean he gets in trouble?" "It means people are looking," Marcus said. "That's the first step." Jamal frowned. "Why didn't they look before?" Marcus didn't soften it. "Because sometimes the system only listens when it's embarrassed." The next morning, Marcus stood before microphones, the city seal behind him. Elaine hovered just out of frame. I'm speaking today as a citizen, Marcus said, voice steady. And as a father. Reporters shouted questions. Is this about revenge? Will you prosecute? Are you stepping down? Marcus raised a hand. The room quieted. This is about truth, he said. And about a system that too often protects itself before it protects people. A reporter called out. Did the officer know who you were? Marcus paused. No, he said. And that's the point. Across the city, the officer watched the press conference on a small television in the break room. His jaw tightened. That's him, a colleague asked. The officer nodded. Yeah. Man, the colleague muttered. You messed up. I did my job, the officer snapped. The colleague shrugged. Looks like the job's about to do you. Union representatives arrived by noon. They sat with the officer, voices low. We'll handle this, one said. Stick to the report. I didn't do anything wrong, the officer insisted. Intent isn't the issue, the rep replied. Perception is. At City Hall, the mayor folded his hands. Marcus, you have to understand the position this puts us in. Marcus met his eyes. I understand exactly where it puts us. We need calm, the mayor said. Calm comes after justice, Marcus replied. The mayor frowned. This could tear things apart. Marcus leaned in. They were already torn. People just didn't want to look. That night, Internal Affairs released a statement. Neutral language. Review. Pending findings. Marcus read it twice, then set his phone down. They're buying time, Elaine said over the phone. I know, Marcus said. Time is their favorite tool. What's next? She asked. Marcus looked toward Jamal's room, the lights still on. Next, he said. They hear from people they can't ignore. In the precinct, the officer sat alone at his locker. The television replayed Marcus's words on a loop. And as the city adjusted its tone, recalibrated its concern, one fact settled in, unavoidable and irreversible. The man they had beaten was not an exception. He was a mirror. And the system was beginning to see itself. The footage broke online at 6:14 a.m. Not the body camera. That absence remained. But a grainy phone video from across the parking lot, shaky and imperfect, yet devastatingly clear. The baton rising. Marcus folding. Jamal screaming. The words "stop resisting" cutting through the noise like a verdict already decided. By 6:20 it was everywhere. Marcus watched it once. He did not watch it again. Elaine called before he could put the phone down. It's moving fast, she said. Too fast to control. Good, Marcus replied. At City Hall, aides sprinted down hallways with tablets pressed to their chests. Statements were drafted, revised, stripped of verbs. The mayor's office released one anyway. We take these allegations seriously. Outside, people gathered without being asked. Signs appeared, handwritten and blunt. Justice for Marcus Reed. Protect our children. The crowd swelled not with shouting at first, but with a low, steady presence that unsettled officials more than anger ever did. Marcus arrived at the courthouse mid-morning. Cameras followed. He walked slowly, ribs still aching, face composed by discipline rather than comfort. A reporter pushed forward. Mr. Reed, do you believe race played a role? Marcus stopped. The question hung heavy with history. Yes, he said. The reporter blinked. Others surged closer. Are you accusing the Department of racism? I'm describing what happened, Marcus said. If the description fits, that's not my doing. Inside, colleagues avoided his eyes or clasped his hand too tightly. Judge Alvarez caught him in the hallway. I saw the video, she said quietly. Marcus nodded. I'm sorry, she added. It was not an apology. It was an acknowledgement. Across town, the officer sat in a union office, jaw clenched, watching the same footage on mute. That's edited, he said. It's raw, the union rep replied. Which is worse? They're turning him into a martyr, the officer snapped. They're responding to what they see, the rep said. You need to stop talking. I didn't do anything different than any other stop. The rep leaned forward. That's the problem. At noon, a community forum was announced. The police chief stood at the podium, flanked by flags and carefully chosen faces. We are committed to transparency, the chief said. We ask for patience. A woman in the crowd shouted. Patience got him beaten. Applause erupted. The chief flinched. Marcus watched from the back, Jamal beside him, Denise's hand on his shoulder. Do we have to stay? Jamal whispered. Marcus looked down. As long as you want. Jamal nodded. He stayed. When the officer's name was finally released, the tone shifted again. The man became a subject, not just a uniform. Old posts surfaced. Former classmates spoke. Some defended him. Others didn't. Marcus received an anonymous message. He deserved it. He deleted it without replying. Elaine brought coffee Marcus didn't drink. They're accusing you of using your office, she said. Of course they are, Marcus replied. They're saying you're poisoning the jury pool. Marcus met her eyes. Then the pool was already toxic. That afternoon, the officer was placed on administrative leave. The announcement was brief, reluctant. Outside the precinct, chants began. Say his name. Marcus Reed. The officer watched from behind tinted glass, fists clenched. They don't know me, he said. No, the rep replied. They know what they saw. At home that evening, Jamal sat on the floor with his homework, television muted but glowing. Marcus lowered himself onto the couch with a careful breath. Dad, Jamal said, not looking up. Why are they yelling? Because they're angry, Marcus said. Are you angry? Marcus considered it. Yes, he said. But that's not what you're hearing. Jamal glanced at the screen, where Marcus's face appeared, frozen mid-sentence. They're saying your name a lot. Marcus nodded. They are. Jamal's voice dropped. I don't want them to forget. Marcus felt something tighten in his chest. They won't, he said. Not this time. That night, a counter-narrative emerged. Opinion pieces questioned Marcus's motives. Commentators debated tone and decorum. He read one headline aloud to Elaine over the phone. Powerful prosecutor plays victim. Elaine exhaled sharply. They always do that. Because it comforts people, Marcus said. If I'm exceptional, then nothing else has to change. The next morning, Marcus testified before a city oversight committee. The room was packed. He spoke plainly without performance. They told me to stop resisting, he said. While I was already on the ground. A council member shifted. Do you believe the officer acted with malicious intent? Marcus answered carefully. I believe the system trained him to see me as a threat before he saw me as a person. Murmurs rippled through the room. Outside, Jamal waited with Denise. A woman approached them, tears in her eyes. My son, she said to Jamal. Something like this happened to my son. Jamal looked at her. Did they listen? The woman hesitated. No. Jamal nodded once. They're listening now. Inside the precinct, Internal Affairs interviewed the officer again. This time the questions pressed harder. Why did you escalate? He didn't comply. With what? My presence. The investigator paused. That's not an order. Silence followed. By nightfall the city felt different. Wait. Marcus stood at his window, watching the glow of patrol lights in the distance. Elaine's words echoed in his head. You can't put this back. He didn't want to. Behind him Jamal spoke softly. Dad. Yes. Are they scared? Marcus turned. Some of them are. Jamal nodded, thoughtful. Good. Marcus did not correct him. Because fear was not justice. But it was the sound of power beginning to shift. The courtroom smelled of wood polish and stale air, a place designed to feel permanent even when justice was not. Marcus Reed sat at the prosecution table, not as district attorney, but as a witness. His name printed in bold on the docket. The distinction mattered. Everyone pretended it didn't. The judge entered. The room rose, then settled. The officer sat at the defense table in a suit that did not quite fit, shoulders tense, eyes fixed forward. He had shaved closely, the bruised arrogance replaced with something harder to read. Fear maybe. Calculation more likely. Call your first witness, the judge said. The prosecutor stood. The state calls Officer Daniel Hayes. Hayes rose. The oath was administered. His voice did not shake. Officer Hayes, the prosecutor began, describe the events of the stop. Hayes cleared his throat. I observed a male subject matching the description of a recent theft suspect. Marcus watched the jury react. Pens paused. Brows furrowed. What description? The prosecutor asked. Male. Adult. Anything else? Hayes hesitated. Black. A murmur rippled through the gallery. You approached Mr. Reed and his son? Yes. Why? Suspicious behavior. What behavior? He questioned my authority. Marcus felt a familiar tightness. The courtroom was quiet now, listening. So questioning you justified force? No, Hayes said quickly. Non-compliance did. The prosecutor held up the phone video. At the moment force was used, where was Mr. Reed's body? Hayes glanced at the screen. Near the vehicle. On his feet. Hayes paused. Partially. Is that standard terminology? The defense attorney stood. Objection. Sustained, the judge said. Rephrase. The prosecutor nodded. Was Mr. Reed on the ground when you struck him? Hayes swallowed. Yes. And was he moving? Hayes's jaw tightened. He tensed. The prosecutor let the word hang. Tensed. Yes. No attempt to flee. No. No weapon. No. No threat to your safety. Hayes looked toward the jury. I felt threatened. By what? His size. His refusal. The prosecutor stepped back. No further questions. The defense rose immediately. Officer Hayes, are you trained to assess threats quickly? Yes. Did you believe you were in danger? Yes. Did you act to neutralize that danger? Yes. The defense turned toward the jury. This is a dangerous job, he said. Split-second decisions. Marcus listened, the familiar script unfolding. When it was over, the judge called the next witness. Marcus Reed. Marcus stood. The room shifted. This was different. Everyone felt it. He took the stand, raised his hand, swore the oath. The truth did not need embellishment. Mr. Reed, the prosecutor said, describe what you remember. Marcus spoke evenly. I remember my son standing beside me. I remember being told to stop. I remember saying please. Did you resist arrest? No. Did you pose a threat? No. The defense approached. Mr. Reed, you are an experienced attorney. Yes. You know how arrests work. Yes. You know officers must control situations. Yes. And yet you refused an order. I refused to leave my son, Marcus said. The defense tilted his head. Because you believed you were above the law? No, Marcus replied. Because I believed my son was not a threat. A few jurors nodded. The defense pressed. Isn't it true that your public statements have inflamed this case? Marcus met his gaze. Truth does that sometimes. The defense frowned. No further questions. The judge called a recess. In the hallway, whispers followed Marcus like static. You did good, Elaine said quietly. I did what happened, Marcus replied. Back in session, the jury heard from bystanders. A woman described Jamal's scream. A man admitted he filmed because he was afraid to intervene. I thought if I stepped in, the man said, voice shaking, it would get worse. The judge nodded, understanding more than he said. The defense called an expert witness, a former officer who spoke of training, of compliance, of escalation curves. The words were smooth, practiced. Officers must assert dominance, the expert said. Early. Marcus watched Jamal in the gallery, Denise's arm around his shoulders. The prosecutor stood. Is dominance the same as safety? The expert hesitated. It can be. Can it also be abuse? Silence. Yes, the expert admitted. The courtroom exhaled. When closing arguments began, the defense leaned hard on fear. This officer did what he was trained to do, the attorney said. We cannot criminalize instinct. The prosecutor followed, voice steady. Instinct without accountability is just permission. The jury was dismissed to deliberate. Hours passed. Marcus sat with Jamal in a quiet room, the hum of the building filling the space. Did I say it wrong? Jamal asked. No, Marcus said. You didn't say anything. Jamal frowned. But I wanted to. I know. The door opened. The bailiff's voice was formal. The jury has reached a verdict. They stood. The foreperson read slowly. On the charge of excessive force under color of law, we find the defendant. The pause felt endless. Guilty. A sound rose from the gallery, then stopped at the judge's raised hand. Hayes stared straight ahead, face drained. Marcus closed his eyes briefly. Relief did not arrive. Something heavier did. The judge spoke. This court recognizes the gravity of this verdict. Sentencing will follow. Outside, reporters waited. Cameras flashed. Marcus stepped forward once more. This verdict does not heal what was broken, he said. But it tells the truth out loud. A reporter shouted. Was it worth it? Marcus looked toward Jamal, standing just behind him. Yes, Marcus said. Because silence would have cost more. As they walked away, Jamal reached for his father's hand. Marcus squeezed back, firm, present. The courtroom had spoken. But echoes would last longer. The verdict did not end anything. It rearranged it. Officer Daniel Hayes stood before the judge a week later for sentencing. Hands clasped behind his back, suit pressed sharp enough to suggest control. The courtroom was quieter now. The crowds had thinned. The cameras still came, but with less urgency. Justice, once named, rarely held attention for long. The judge spoke without flourish. You were entrusted with authority, she said. You abused it. Hayes's attorney argued for leniency. Good record. Stressful job. Single mistake. The judge listened, unmoved. This was not a mistake, she said. It was a choice. The sentence followed. Prison time. Termination from the department. Loss of certification. Hayes's shoulders sagged for the first time. His eyes searched the room, not for forgiveness, but for recognition. None came. Marcus watched from the gallery, Jamal beside him, Denise on the other side. He felt no satisfaction. Only a settling like dust after a collapse. Outside, a reporter pushed forward. Mr. Reed, do you feel justice was served? Marcus paused. He chose precision. Accountability occurred, he said. Justice is larger than one man. The city moved quickly after that. The mayor announced reforms. New training modules. Revised use of force policies. Task force. Marcus read the memo Elaine forwarded. It's a start, she said. It's language, Marcus replied. Let's see what they do with it. At the police department, morale fractured. Some officers grumbled openly. They're hanging us out to dry, one said in the locker room. Another shook his head. He crossed a line. Lines move, the first snapped. No, the second replied. They're supposed to stop us. Hayes's locker was emptied quietly. His name removed from schedules, then from memory. Former colleagues avoided saying it. At home, the quiet was heavier than the noise had been. Jamal slept better but not fully. He still startled at raised voices. He still checked the window when sirens passed. One evening, Jamal sat at the table, staring at his homework. Dad, he said. Is he mad at you? Marcus knew who he meant. Probably, he said. Is he going to hurt you? No, Marcus said. He can't. Jamal nodded, then asked the harder question. Did we ruin his life? Marcus closed his eyes briefly. He ruined it when he chose violence, he said. We just didn't hide it. Jamal thought about that. Okay. Marcus returned to work officially the next week. The building felt different. Colleagues greeted him with care, like he was something fragile. A junior attorney stopped him in the hallway. Thank you, she said. For what? Marcus asked. For not letting it disappear. Marcus nodded once. That's your job too, he said. Now. Some days the cost showed itself unexpectedly. Marcus found himself scanning rooms, choosing seats with clear exits, calculating risks he never used to measure. Elaine noticed. You're not wrong, she said. You're just tired. I'm altered, Marcus replied. Public opinion shifted again, predictably. The outrage cooled. Commentators moved on. New scandals took their place. But letters arrived. Handwritten. Careful. My son saw what happened to you. Thank you for standing. I never thought someone like you would listen to someone like me. Marcus read them late at night, one by one. He did not answer all of them. He kept them anyway. One afternoon, Jamal came home with a folded paper. We learned about civics, he said. Marcus smiled faintly. Did you? Yeah. Jamal hesitated. I told them about you. Marcus waited. I said the law is supposed to protect people, Jamal continued. And sometimes it doesn't. But it can. Marcus felt something ease just a fraction. That was brave, he said. Jamal shrugged. It's just true. Across the city, Hayes's appeal was filed, then denied. The process dragged as it always did. His name appeared less and less. Consequences did not roar. They eroded. One evening, Marcus received a message from an unknown number. You think you won. You didn't. He stared at the screen, then deleted it. He did not forward it. He did not respond. At dinner, Denise watched him closely. You okay? Yes, Marcus said. And this time it was mostly true. Weeks later, a community meeting convened at a local high school. Not televised. No podium. Just chairs in a circle. A man stood. We've heard promises before, he said. Why should we believe this time is different? Marcus spoke from his seat. You shouldn't, he said. Belief isn't the goal. Pressure is. The room hummed with agreement. Afterward, Jamal tugged at his sleeve. They listened to you. Marcus corrected him gently. They listened to themselves, he said. Out loud. As they walked home, the city felt familiar again, but not safe. Not simple. Dad, Jamal said. If it happens again. Marcus stopped walking. He knelt so they were eye level. If it happens again, he said, we will say something again. Jamal nodded, satisfied. That night, Marcus stood at the window, watching the streetlights flicker on. The world had not become just. It had become visible. And that, he understood, was its own kind of consequence. The verdict faded into paperwork, then into memory, the way public moments always did. What remained lived elsewhere, in habits, in pauses, in the quiet choices that shaped ordinary days. Marcus woke before dawn now. Not from fear exactly, but from vigilance that had learned to pass for discipline. He stood at the kitchen window with a mug cooling in his hands, watching the street breathe. When a patrol car rolled past, he noted it, then let it go. Practice, not peace. Jamal padded in, hair flattened on one side, backpack dragging behind him. You're up early again, he said. Marcus turned. So are you. Jamal shrugged. Test today. What kind? History. Jamal hesitated. They're teaching about rights. Marcus nodded. That's a big chapter. At the end, Jamal said. The teacher said it's ongoing. Marcus smiled faintly. She's right. They walked to school together. Marcus kept his pace measured, hands visible, posture neutral. Old reflexes that had sharpened rather than dulled. Jamal noticed. You don't have to walk like that with me, Jamal said. Marcus stopped. Like what? Like you're on TV. Marcus exhaled, then corrected himself. He dropped his shoulders. Thank you, he said. The gate. Jamal paused. Dad. Yes. Do you still hurt? Marcus considered the question. Some days, he said. Less than before. Jamal nodded. Me too. Inside the office, Marcus returned to cases that waited without ceremony. Files stacked. Files queued. The law did not pause for personal aftermaths. Elaine briefed him on a sentencing memo. Policy changes past committee, she said. Barely. Implementation? Marcus asked. Elaine tilted her head. That's the fight. Marcus nodded. Then we fight. At lunch, he met with a mother whose son had been stopped twice in a month. She spoke quickly, afraid of wasting time she had never been given. They said he fit a description, she said. Marcus asked. Which one? She smiled without humor. You know. He did. He took notes anyway. In the afternoon, a memo crossed his desk requesting guidance on charging decisions involving officers. Marcus read it slowly. Precision mattered. Precedent mattered more. That evening, Jamal waited at the table with a folded paper. I got an A, he said. Marcus smiled fully this time. On the test? Yeah. Jamal pushed the paper forward. I wrote about checks and balances. Marcus read the last line twice. Jamal had written, accountability is how power remembers it has limits. That's strong, Marcus said. Jamal shrugged. It's just what you said. I said it, Marcus replied. You understood it. They cooked together, moving around each other without collision. The light stayed on. They ate slowly. After dishes, Jamal pulled out the essay he'd written weeks earlier. The torn edges were taped now. Do you want to keep this? Jamal asked. Marcus nodded. If you do. Jamal considered, then placed it in a folder. I don't want it to be the only thing people know. It won't be, Marcus said. But it will always be something. Later a knock came at the door. Marcus opened it to find a man from the neighborhood. Older, careful. I won't stay long, the man said. I just wanted to say thank you. For what? Marcus asked. For not making it about being special, the man said. For making it about being ordinary. Marcus nodded. That was the point. The man left. The door closed. The house returned to its quiet. Before bed, Jamal lingered in the doorway. Dad. Yes. If you could change it, if it never happened, would you? Marcus took his time. I would change the harm, he said. Not the truth. Jamal frowned. Why not? Because truth teaches, Marcus said. Even when it hurts. Jamal nodded, satisfied enough to sleep. Marcus sat alone for a while, the house breathing around him. He thought of the officer's face at sentencing, of the way power collapses not in a single moment but in layers. He thought of the reforms that would stall and the ones that would stick because people refused to forget. A siren wailed in the distance. Marcus felt it pass through him and continue on. The phone buzzed. A message from Elaine. Tomorrow's meeting moved up. Community stakeholders. Marcus typed back. I'll be there. He set the phone down and turned off the light. In the dark, he practiced letting go of what he could not control. He practiced staying. Morning would come. Work would follow. The city would test its memory. What remained was not closure. It was continuity. A father walking his son to school. A system learning slowly to hear. A truth spoken once, then again until it held. Marcus closed his eyes. And rested, not because the fight was over, but because he knew how to carry it now. The city learned to speak in quieter ways after the noise faded. Marcus noticed it first in meetings that ended without applause, in emails that stopped hedging and started naming things. Not enough to call it change. Enough to call it pressure holding. At a precinct training room, new recruits watched a video paused on a familiar frame. An instructor cleared his throat. This is what escalation looks like, he said. And this is what it costs. No one laughed. No one looked away. Marcus sat in the back, invited but not centered. He did not comment. He watched the room learn how to be uncomfortable without deflecting it. Afterward, an officer approached him, young, careful. "My father was a cop," the officer said. "He told me not to talk." Marcus nodded. "Talking isn't the point," he said. "Listening is." The officer absorbed that and walked away. At the office, the work multiplied. Complaints that had once stalled now moved. Not faster, cleaner. Marcus read each file with the same discipline he had always practiced, but with an added constraint. No shortcuts, no deference to uniforms. The standard had to survive scrutiny from every direction. Elaine watched him one evening as the lights thinned across the floor. "You know they're measuring you," she said. "They always were," Marcus replied. "Now they're honest about it." He left late and walked instead of driving. The city breathed around him. Storefronts closing, buses sighing, a group of kids arguing over a game. Ordinary life, unremarkable and fragile. A patrol car slowed as it passed him, then continued on. Marcus noted the moment and let it go. At home, Jamal worked on a poster for school. Construction paper, markers, tape. He looked up as Marcus entered. "Can you help?" Jamal asked. "With what?" "The title," Jamal said. "It's about community." Marcus leaned over the table. "What do you want it to say?" Jamal considered. "Not everyone agrees. But we still live together." Marcus nodded. "That's accurate." Jamal wrote it carefully, block letters steady. A week later, the city council held a hearing. Not televised. No speeches polished for cameras. Residents spoke. Officers spoke. Some voices shook. Some resisted. A man at the microphone said, "I don't trust this." Marcus listened. He did not counter. A woman followed. "I didn't either," she said. "But I watched what happened. And I'm watching what happens next." The room held. The council voted to fund an independent review board with real authority. Narrow margin. Enough. Outside, no one cheered. People exchanged looks that said, "We'll see." That night, Marcus received a call from a blocked number. He let it ring. The voicemail arrived anyway. "You think this ends with you," a voice said. "It doesn't." Marcus deleted it and wrote a note in a log. Content. Procedure mattered. At breakfast, Jamal noticed the tension. "Bad call?" he asked. "Unhelpful," Marcus said. Jamal nodded. "You want eggs?" "Yes," Marcus said. "Please." They ate quietly. Jamal asked about school. Marcus asked about a book Jamal was reading. The ordinary held. At work, a prosecutor pushed back on a charging decision. "If we bring this," she said, "the union will explode." Marcus replied evenly. "If we don't, the law implodes." She nodded and filed the motion. Weeks passed. The officer's appeal failed again. The department released quarterly data. Use of force incidents dipped, then leveled. Not victory. Direction. Marcus testified once more, this time in a policy workshop. He spoke less about himself and more about structure. "Discretion without oversight is not judgment," he said. "It's habit." A hand rose. "What if oversight slows response?" Marcus answered, "Speed that breaks trust costs more time." Afterward, a woman approached him, older, resolute. "My brother never got this," she said. "But I'm glad someone did." Marcus replied, "I'm sorry he didn't." That night, Jamal brought home a permission slip. "Field trip," he said. "Courthouse." Marcus smiled. "What do you want to see?" "The room," Jamal said. "Where words matter." At the courthouse, Jamal stood at the rail, eyes wide. The judge explained procedure. The bailiff explained order. Jamal raised his hand. "What happens if someone lies?" The judge answered, "Then the system is tested." Jamal nodded, satisfied. Outside, Jamal asked, "Do you ever wish you weren't in charge?" Marcus thought. "I wish the job didn't require courage," he said. "But since it does, no." As fall settled in, the city marked time with small markers. A new training schedule, a revised policy, a quiet resignation no one announced. Marcus tracked them without ceremony. One evening, he and Jamal walked past the old parking lot. The asphalt had been resurfaced. Fresh lines. No marker. Jamal stopped. "This is where it happened." "Yes," Marcus said. "They didn't put anything here." Marcus nodded. "Places don't remember," he said. "People do." Jamal considered that. "Then we should." Marcus placed a hand on Jamal's shoulder. They stood for a moment and then kept walking. At home, Marcus filed away another letter. Another case. Another day. He felt the weight differently now. Not lighter but balanced. The echo of what happened did not vanish. It settled into routines, into standards, into a refusal to move on without carrying forward. Marcus turned off the light and stood in the dark, listening to the house, to the city beyond it. Not healed. Not finished. Working. Winter came without ceremony. Snow dusted the city just enough to soften edges, not enough to hide anything. Marcus noticed how sound changed in the cold. Sirens muffled, footsteps deliberate, voices carried farther than intended. The work continued. Not the dramatic kind. The kind that outlasted attention. Marcus sat in a budget meeting where no one mentioned his name. He preferred it that way. Line items were debated. Oversight staffing. Data transparency requirements. Someone tried to defer implementation. Marcus spoke once. "Delay is a decision," he said. The motion passed. At home, Jamal taped his gloves together so he wouldn't lose them. Marcus watched from the doorway. "You ready?" Marcus asked. Jamal nodded. "They're doing mock trials today." Marcus smiled. "What role?" "I'm the judge," Jamal said, proud and nervous. "I have to be fair." Marcus knelt to zip Jamal's coat. "Fair is work," he said. "Not a feeling." Jamal absorbed that. "Okay." At school pickup, Jamal burst out with energy. "We argued a lot," he said. "Everyone wanted to win." "And?" Marcus asked. "I said the rules matter more than winning," Jamal replied. "They didn't like that." Marcus nodded. "They rarely do." In the following weeks, small reports landed on Marcus's desk. An officer disciplined for falsifying a report. Another cleared after evidence review. The pattern mattered more than the outcomes. Consistency was the message. Elaine leaned against his doorframe one evening. "They're still testing you." "They should," Marcus said. "If they stop, we've failed." She smiled thinly. "You ever get tired?" Marcus considered. "Yes," he said. "I just don't confuse that with quitting." The city released its annual report. The numbers told a restrained story. Complaints up. Use of force down. Prosecutions of officers rare but no longer impossible. Marcus read it without celebration. At a community center, a listening session unfolded in folding chairs and fluorescent light. Teenager spoke about being stopped on his way home. "They asked where I was going," he said. "I said home." They laughed. Marcus did not interrupt. He took notes. A retired officer spoke next. "I wish we'd done this earlier," he said. The room shifted. Not forgiveness. Not absolution. Recognition. Later, outside in the cold, Jamal asked, "Do they feel bad?" Marcus answered carefully. "Some do," he said. "Some don't. The point is that it doesn't end with feelings." As the year closed, a new class of recruits graduated. Marcus attended without fanfare. The chief spoke about service, about restraint, about trust as currency. One recruit caught Marcus's eye and nodded. Not gratitude, awareness. At home, Jamal pulled out the folder again, the essay, the poster, a few clippings. He hesitated. "I don't want to carry this forever," Jamal said. Marcus sat beside him. "You don't have to," he said. "You just have to know where it is." Jamal placed the folder back in the drawer. "Okay." On the anniversary of the incident, the city did not hold a vigil. No statement was issued. The parking lot remained unmarked. Marcus and Jamal walked past it anyway. Jamal stopped. "I remember how loud it was," he said. Marcus nodded. "I remember how quiet it got." They stood for a moment. Then Jamal asked, "What if people forget?" Marcus replied, "Then we remind them with how we work." That evening, Marcus received a message from a colleague in another city. "We're using your framework." Marcus typed back, "Use it. Improve it." The phone buzzed again. A different message. "Anonymous. Still watching." Marcus logged it and set the phone down. At dinner, Jamal talked about a science project. Marcus listened, corrected him once, let him be wrong once. Balance mattered everywhere. Before bed, Jamal asked the question he'd been circling for months. "Do you think it made a difference?" Marcus did not answer quickly. "Yes," he said. "Not everywhere. Not forever. But enough to change what happens next." Jamal nodded, satisfied with that scale. Marcus turned off the light and stood in the hallway, listening to the house settle. The city outside moved on imperfectly, carrying lessons unevenly. He thought of the baton, the asphalt, the words "stop resisting" spoken into a lie. He thought of the courtroom, the verdict, the reforms that would stall and the ones that would persist because someone insisted on memory. Justice had not been a moment. It had been a process with a cost. Marcus lay down, ribs no longer aching but not forgotten. He closed his eyes. Tomorrow would bring more files, more meetings, more decisions without cameras. That was the point. The long memory was not dramatic. It was deliberate. And it was still at work.